23-11. So I won the match with lethal, not my opponent scooping, in under 2 minutes. 1 minute and 49 seconds. I don't think I've ever won this quickly. Hey everybody, today we're going to be playing Red Belcher. However, we're going to switch it up and try to make it as competitive as possible. Previously, I was really trying to make Vindictive Flamestoker work just as best as possible because I love the card so much, and I kind of wasn't giving Red Belcher the respect that maybe it deserves. I started building this deck as soon as this card was printed, Flamestoker, which was well before these new MDFCs came into play. And I was playing 8 Baubles and Manamorphose and a couple Burgies in the main, a lot of Brews without even Burning Wish. We were just looking at main deck Leyline of Anticipation, just looking to have maximum fun while still winning a fair amount. The deck was actually not bad. So I got to thinking, why don't I actually lean in and just make something that I would think is legitimately competitive? And immediately I was rewarded with a pretty successful league that instead of going through a live playthrough, I'm going to go through those matches because they were against competitive decks, except for maybe one, and they were really good games. I'm also 1-0 in a league right now because before firing up this video, I just had to play a game. All right, so what have I changed? Well, we're playing MDFCs. I'm not playing 12 of them. You can play any number between 8 and 12. I think you should have at least 8. But we have Spirit Guides, we have Chrome Mox, we have Petal, we have Opal. I was operating with this deck with none previously to play main deck Leyline of Anticipation, because even MDFCs are not good with Leyline of Anticipation. That's the card that, it's a Leyline that allows you to cast spells at instant speed. You can be on the draw and just kind of take the play from them. Has a lot of synergy with Bauble and Relay, and maybe it has a place in the sideboard. I don't know, that's a whole nother conversation. But what are we doing here? We've added the MDFCs, we're playing Seething Song. I'm not trying to force Burgie. Burgie's tough because usually you have to cast a lot of the spells you would want post Burgie to get Burgie into play in the first place. So it's just harder to leverage without soul lands. You really need soul lands to leverage Burgie, which is sad, but here we are. I think Seething Song is great. I think it's great alongside Overmaster, and this is a card that I've played in the past with the Epic Gamble. It is very good. So the general play patterns with this card, it being 1 red that draws a card, and the next instant or sorcery spell you cast this turn can't be countered. So it just applies to 1, and it only applies to instant and sorcery. So generally speaking, you want to play Lines of Diamond before Overmaster, because if you Overmaster, they let it resolve, and then you put a Lines of Diamond on the stack, they're probably going to counter that, because then they expect the Echo to be coming. So usually you want to play LED first, then you Overmaster, and you can sandbag Petals, Opals, Chrome Mox in, because that's not going to affect the next instant or sorcery, as to whether or not it can't be countered. And you can even, oftentimes when you resolve Overmaster, because you draw a card, you'll draw a Bauble or an Opal or a Petal or something, and you can still put it into play, which is nice. Also has some additional synergy with Bauble. You can look at the top. If you're like drawing into a Belcher and you have multiple LEDs in play, you could then use your LEDs, Overmaster whole priority, crack LEDs, and draw the Belcher and play it. And it all just has great synergy with Galvanic Relay. So Overmaster, the obvious application is to make your Echo uncounterable, play out all your stuff, Overmaster, and then put Echo on the stack. However, it's also very good for Seething Song, because with Seething Song, a lot of the time, you have a Relay, you have a Seething Song. If you can cast the Seething Song, you can make a ripping Relay. But if you can't, you kind of hold on to it because you're worried about it getting Force of Willed. Overmaster is just a great way to ensure that Seething Song and possibly draw another castable. It draws into, say, a Bauble, Petal, or Opal. You've now gotten 2 Storm for your relay. It's really solid. Overmaster is also great to slip in between Rite of Flames, which is one of the reasons that I'm playing the 4 empty sideboard right now. This is something we used to do with the Epic Gamble all the time. At one point, I did play 3 Overmaster. I played the 4 empty in the sideboard, and we crushed Tempo over and over again. If you have 2 Rite of Flames, you can cast the first one, which is rarely going to be countered, and then you can Overmaster to ensure that your second one resolves. And then, as long as you have 1 more mana, wind up casting your empty. There is occasionally awkwardness with Gamble, but that's the case with, that's just the case with some cards with Gamble. You can still take lines that give you a chance to protect your Echo despite having to gamble. It's usually a scenario where you have to play out a certain amount of mana to even make the line work. You have to get LED with Gamble, and now you have a small amount of cards in your hand, and your Gamble can't hit the LED or the Overmaster, or it can hit Overmaster, but then your Echo isn't protected. Situation like that. I believe it comes up a couple times in this league. But yeah, the deck feels super smooth. I'd say one of the biggest things that was missing in the previous iterations, again, just trying to maximize fun, not playing the MDFCs, right? Just not having access to that initial red source. There's also a lot of benefit and resiliency that you get by having all these lands against something like Prison, right? Sure, they've got you locked out with Chalice, but between Rite of Flame, 8 lands, Spirit Guide, and Seething Song, a lot of times you can just get a Belcher into play. And then, you know, you have 2 lands in play, and all you gotta do is draw 1 more, you know, situations like that. But other than that, we have a few usual suspects in the sideboard. I don't know how great the sideboard Overmaster is, but I can think of some scenarios where it would be good, and we'll see how often those come up and adjust accordingly. I've got a couple grids for some extra protection that we can bring in against blue. Like I said, we're running the empties. We don't have any natural blue sources outside of artifacts. So I'm not running any bounce spells. It's not as reliable, or we're not as able to cast them. And we're not playing Burgi. And on top of that, we have more jukes. For instance, I just won a match against Oops All Spells. They mulligan down to Leyline. I just turn 1 emptied them, right? You have Burning Wish lines that you can take like that. We have Relay in the main deck, and hello, we have Belcher and a lot of mana. We don't necessarily need to be echoing, and I think Shattering Spree pulls a lot of weight. Is it possible we should be playing a couple of Braids, maybe a bounce spell? Maybe. But I think we're mostly trying to go under or around, and actually removing something tends to be plan C, but we'll see. I'll see you in the first round. All right, so here we are in round 1 against F2104. We lose the die roll, and I think I'm totally okay with keeping this hand. And it looks like we certainly do. Opponent mulligans down to 4. And let's see what they lead on. Right, Sandstone Needle. So this is probably the one example in the league of a not necessarily competitive deck, but I mean, Mississippi River is not bad. We are specifically pretty good against them. I will say that, but it certainly lets us know that we can just rip and go for it. So I guess cast some of my mana, and I say, what the heck, we'll cast the Overmaster. And we just hit a Belcher. This was the fastest match, actually, now that I'm thinking of it, that I've ever played. I just killed my opponent in 29 seconds. So that's game 1. I mean, it's possible they're on Ruby Storm too, but either way, they're both decks that aren't going to interact. They could be playing Leylines post-board, less likely if it's Mississippi River, but they do sometimes. So here we are in game 2, and it looks like I took Overmasters out and brought some grids in. Yeah, I took 2 Overmaster out and brought 2 grids in, because they do also play some number of traps sometimes. And our hand is very explosive, so obviously we keep this. They mulligan to 6. You reveal a Chancellor of the Annex. So, and then a Dwarven Ruin. So it is definitely Mississippi River. We draw land, which is fine. And I opt to play the land and just throw this Chrome Mox in a way. I could pay for it, but then I'm imprinting something, so I might as well just not pay for it. And we'll play the other Chrome Mox. We'll just imprint this Seething Song. And then gamble for another LED. We hit. And we spin. Oop. And we cast the Seething Song. And now we just have a lethal Belcher. Okay, as long as they don't have trap, which they don't. 23-11. So I won the match with lethal, not my opponent scooping, in under 2 minutes. 1 minute and 49 seconds. I don't think I've ever won this quickly. Love it. All right, so I'll see you in round 2. Hey everyone, thanks for making it this far. Just wanted to thank everybody, and if you're looking for more, show you where you can find that. If you go to the description below, you can find all of my links. If you go further down in the comments, you can also find my links for bring you to my Patreon, various tiers for Discord access, early access, sideboard guides, donation decks, coaching sessions. You can also check out the podcast within those links, as well as my Twitch, where I do most of my content. You can see the commands that you can use in the chat. Let's say you do dono. You're wondering how to get a link, how to do it. Tells you right here. And the members Discord is within the Storm, MTG Storm community. And of course, it's always going to help if you hit the like and subscribe. So thanks again. Keep storming, y'all. All right, here we go. Round 2. We have lost the die roll again. And this hand is not too bad. We've got a relay. If we can draw like Chrome Mox, Opal, really any castable, this relay will get a lot better. Depending on what they're doing, we can also just take our time, make a land drop. All right, they're going to open on Ponder. And we find an Overmaster. I believe... Okay, I just cast the Overmaster, seeing if they want to counter it. They did not. Just to get, you know, we see Vista, Basic Island, Ponder. I figure I have time to make this relay a lot better. That is one of the things about Overmaster. You can just cycle it. All right, Tamiyo and Wasteland. So expecting a very interactive deck. We draw another Overmaster, so I just go for the same thing here. We hit a Belcher, which is not particularly good. Most of our deck is mana. We're not hitting, which is a bummer. But I would still constitute this hand as good and favorable from this spot. So opponent flips Tamiyo, which we don't care too much about. At least not right now. Hoping to draw some more mana. We draw another Relay. Which again is not necessarily the worst. I think it is worth it at this point to go for one of our relays. We would be pretty disappointed about a Stifle or Consign. It looks like they could be, you know, the Vista is pretty suspicious. I would imagine this is a blue-white deck. And yes, they go for Tundra, and they have a Stifle. It's certainly annoying, but we still get one card. We get to draw with this Bauble. And now Tamiyo is looking a little more threatening. We draw some mana. They plus the Tamiyo. And just cycle a Dress down. Or no, I'm sorry. They make a 12-12 with it. And, oh, right. LED is the card in exile from the Relay. And we draw Echo. So we play the LED, and now we can slam Belcher. Hope that they don't have Daze. However, we figure they do have something. They plus Tamiyo, but we can't pass because they have lethal in play. You could Burning Wish for Shattering Spree. Wouldn't be a bad play, but this Tamiyo is pretty threatening. So I slam Belcher. Worst case scenario, they do have Daze. And I figure, well, we're probably screwed, but we don't have a choice at this point. Might as well Echo. Plussing Tamiyo when you only have Daze is pretty bold, but they don't really have anything good. They could have gotten Stifle, but they're going to say, I'm going to make you have it. We did have it, and we've drawn into a banger of a hand. This is where Overmaster is insane. Obviously, if they Daze an LED, that is a pain in the butt, but they do not. You play out the Opal. We make a red, play out another Opal. Cast the Rite of Flame. And now we get to Overmaster. See if we hit some value. We do. We get to play that bauble. If you hit something like a Rite of Flame, or a Gamble, or Burning Wish, or... I mean, Burning Wish would actually be really good. Because then it would be uncounterable, and then you can Tendrils them. But there are some circumstances where you don't want to cast the card that you get off Overmaster. But this Echo is now uncounterable. So we went from Echo with no mana to Echo with 5 mana and 12 Storm. And we draw lethal, but no, that's it. We're actually dead to a force, but we have plenty of mana for days. And best case scenario, they have double days if they don't have force. Okay, Moto just freaked out. It just wasn't doing anything, and then I clicked too many times. So they had A days, which means our Belcher gets in, which means they are dead. Lay out the LED, why not? Fire the cannon. Cool. Okay, obviously we're on the draw. I brought in 2 grids, and it looks like I took out a Seething Song and a Mox Opal. And this hand is great. Bunch of zeros, relay, we got an Overmaster. Sounds good to me. They mulligan to 6. The only problem, of course, is that they do have Stifles in their deck. So I actually just opt to go to cleanup and try to set up a nice, like, double relay situation. And we'll just put Echo in the graveyard. Not like we're missing any land drops. And they play Lavinia. So, I scoop it up. Lavinia is pretty rough, especially with this hand. Not only would these zeros get countered by Lavinia, but I have no lands to put them into play in the first place. Alright, so game 3, obviously, we're on the play. And has a bunch of mana and an Overmaster. Think I throw it back? Yes, I do. This hand has a non-active Opal. I think I throw this back as well. Yes, I do. This hand has a 50-50 chance to protect an Echo. This would be a good time in the video to pause and try to think how that is so. If you would have seen it, how are you going to sequence it, etc. Okay, so I bottom, I believe, the Relay and the Seething Song. There goes Seething Song, there goes Relay. So I play a land first, because I'm less likely to get my LED countered if I put some mana into play first. Yeah, we go Rite of Flame, Leyline's a diamond, and now I can gamble for Echo and give myself a 50-50 chance, because if it hits the Echo directly, I'm left with the Overmaster, and I can protect it. And this is what I was talking about in the deck, and we do hit it. So now on 5 cards, we managed to put a protected Echo on the stack. And we draw Burning Wish that we can't cast. It would have been nice to hit like a Petal, Opal, Bauble, or an LED. Now we have an uncounterable Echo that draws into a very aggressive hand. And I believe I just decide to rip here, because the thing is they've shown they can't play Lavinia, but I'm worried about Deafening Silence, I'm worried about Stifle, who knows what they're playing. But we go ahead and rip, and just hope that they didn't draw into a force, which they did not. And now we have an insane hand of cards. I'll play Rite of Flame. And here's a spot where Overmaster is great. I can protect this Seething Song. Because otherwise you would just be afraid to cast the Seething Song. And you would wind up playing a Relay. Which is fine, but I would rather cast an uncounterable Song. And now we just cast a Smashing for X equals 0. Which you can do because it's up 2. And they said I had a force, I'm just bad at the game. I don't know when they're talking about. Can't imagine it was when we cracked both LEDs. Maybe in the opening sequence with the Overmaster situation. And now we relay for 1 million. Or 14. Oh, there goes Moto going crazy again. They cast the Ponder and pass. And we have all this to work with. So we make some mana. Play out Opal. Just play this Belcher. They have days. We will happily pay for it. So they are dead. Fire the cannon. See you in round 3. Alright, here we are, round 3. Looks like we actually want a die roll. That's nice. This hand has a bunch of spirit guides, Seething Song, Overmaster, but doesn't quite do anything. We mulligan to a insane hand. This, if we were running Peer into the Abyss, this would actually be a turn 1 Peer. But we are not. So we're obviously just going to rip it here. Rite of Flame, LED, Ox Opal, cast the Burning Wish, and it'll be a question as to whether I'd want a Mind's Desire for 6 or Echo, but I think I'm going for Desire here. And they do have a Force, so we Force check them, they have it, we move on. Force pitching days. Could stick around to see what flavor, which technically you should. I just wanted to save time. Okay. So now we're on the play. I brought in the empties and took out Seething Songs and brought in the grids. So 2 grids, 3 empties in, 4 Seething Song, 1 Belcher out. And hopefully we can just get them. This hand, what is this hand doing? I think I just go in and just force check them again. They're not always going to have a force hand. Alright, so we play out all of our mana, gamble for Echo, and we rip. And it does resolve. We'll start with this Rite of Flame. I don't want to waste Storm if it gets countered. Does not get countered. Bobble, and I'll just save the opals instead of essentially cycling them into this relay. And we get to relay for 7, and we have the bobble draw. Yeah, it looks like we flipped a bunch of stuff that'll give us Metalcraft, so we can use that bobble. We have a Brainstorm on top. And they go turn 1. This is after all we've seen is Force of Will Days. Our opponent goes Chrome Mox, Imprint Regent, Murktide Regent, land, turn 1 Lavinia. Which is so wild. And we win. Ready? Sorry, I shouldn't have spoiled it like that, but it's just wild. Absolutely wild. Yeah, we Burning Wish into... We have an Overmaster, but I don't actually have enough mana. This is the Relay Exile Zone. But they don't have further interaction. And we get to Grapeshot the Lavinia. And then proceed to go off. Now, Baubles, Petal, Mox Opal, well, I cast the Overmaster, Mox Opal. We don't have enough mana to Tendrils, but we did draw into an empty, which is very nice. And we make 22 goblins. I don't know how a Deafening Silence got on the preview thing here, but maybe it's a foreshadowing. I mean, this hand is reasonable. They open on planes, Deafening Silence, and we are pretty cold to it, so I do scoop it up. We experience a turn 1 Lavinia and a turn 1 Deafening Silence. From a Force Days deck. It's funny that we won the Lavinia game. But okay, sure. See you in round 4. Alright, here we go, round 4 against Blue Man 7. We are on the play this time. I think we lost the first 2 die rolls, and then we won last time and this time. This hand is pretty sweet. A nice relay hand. Start with Spirit Guide, Rite of Flame. Make sure they don't counter that. Now we're willing to commit the Petal. We've got the Bobble. We're just going to rip on the Seething Song. Bobble. LED. And relay for 6. Which feels like 7 since we had the Bobble draw. There's 6 relay cards. Draw a step and a bobble draw with an LED in play. So pretty solid. Romox, LED, gamble, land, Rite of Flame, gamble. Not bad. Especially because we have a Rite of Flame in the graveyard. We play an Underground Sea and pass. Bobble, see a Ponder. Draw another Rite of Flame. So we've got a boatload of mana, and double Echo. You can definitely fight through a Force of Will here, and a Daze. Obviously, double Force would be a problem, but I think it's clear they didn't start with a Force. So I think at best they drew a Force. And we just have a bunch of mana here. And we go for the first Echo, crack the LEDs, make a bunch of blue and red, spin it so they have the emergency brainstorm, which, you know, to be fair, could find double Force. And they don't find anything. And we don't have any action here in our hand. I mean, we have baubles, but we do have this gamble. So what I would do here is just lead on the gamble for either Echo or Relay. I think Echo is safer, because if it gets hit, at least you can cast the Echo. And you're otherwise front-siding it with like 1,000,000 mana. Yep. The gamble hits bauble. I did get Echo. And we cast that Rite of Flame. And now, even if Song gets countered, we can still frontside the Echo to let it go. Now we just play out the rest of this stuff. One more mana from Mox Opal. Mox being in exile is not nothing. Can imprint a land, post Echo. And we'll go for the front side. And it resolves. Now we have an Overmaster and a massive Relay. I'm sorry, we also have this Echo in the graveyard. So we cast Rite of Flame, battle, Mox from exile, imprint one of these lands, cast the Overmaster, find another Overmaster, we'll cycle it, and we find Burning Wish. That is uncounterable. And now we get them with the Tendies. Sweet. Okay, so obviously they're on the play. We have a banger of a hand. We definitely keep these. Although since we saw Underground Sea, Brainstorm, I can expect to get Thought Seized here. Usually the case. And we do. Of course, they take the Lion's Eye Diamond. We draw Petal. We'll play out the Petal. Use the Spirit Guide to gamble for an LED. So here's another one of those spots where, obviously if it hits LED, that's not good for us at all. But we do have another gamble, so we could still do things. And if it hits the Overmaster, I don't have the opportunity to have a uncounterable Echo. But if it hits anything else, and they don't counter the LED, then we can protect our Echo. They do have good information, though, from the Thoughtseize. But my hopes is, so it hits the other gamble, so we do have the line available. My hope is, since they Thoughtseized, if you have a Thoughtseize in your opener, you're more likely to keep a hand that doesn't have much else in terms of interaction because of the strength of Thoughtseize. A lot of the times, it'll just be days or nothing. And we play the LED. Plus, there's a non-zero chance they just don't counter the LED or didn't care to read Overmaster. And we cast Overmaster, which resolves. We hit a land off of it, which is nice. We'll imprint that with Chrome Mox. Again, Chrome Mox is not going to interrupt the Overmaster effect. This Echo is now uncounterable. And we draw into a sweet Relay hand. So Petal, Petal. We go for the Overmaster here. You don't have to. You could just Relay. But I figure worst case, I still have my Relay. I'll just lose an extra Petal. But we did gain a Storm by doing so. In best case, we hit some sort of solid castable. A land is fine. It's a mana. It replaced itself. And now we just Relay for 10. We hit LED, Burning Wish, Opal, Belcher, Rite of Flame, Belcher, Spirit Guide, Burning Wish. So not bad. A nice mix of mana and action. We get Wastelanded, and they Thoughtseize, which is not going to be good enough. Okay. They Mox Opal. They Rite of Flame. They Rite of Flame. Lion's Eye Diamond. So all of our mana resolved. And cast the Burning Wish. Go get Overmaster. Yeah, because they're at 15. So now we can use that to make Burning Wish uncounterable. We rip an LED off of it. Not necessary, but sweet. Now we Burning Wish, which, again, can't be countered. And get him with the 90s. I grew up in the 90s. That's why we're messing around with the tendies. Alright, sweet. See you in the final round. Alright, here we are, final round against Flossed. And we're on the play. That's always nice. And this hand is serviceable. Our opponent keeps on 6. We go Petal, land, Rite of Flame, Seething Song. And I go ahead and cast the Burning Wish. I believe I just put Echo in my hand. And then we relay for 5. And we hit 3 lands, which really stinks. An LED and an Echo. Not necessarily bad. They go Darkrit, Dothy, Voidwalker, and Thoughtseize. Pretty wild. They take the Belcher. We draw Burning Wish. So this is a really tough spot. If you're interested in these sorts of decks, I think this is another good spot to pause and try to think of what you would do. Put the land into play. Cast Lines of Diamond. Cast Burning Wish. And just put Grapeshot into my hand. Because we have problems here. We don't have enough to frontside this Echo. We can't backside the Echo because of the Voidwalker. We don't have enough mana to Smashing. All we can do is cast Burning Wish. We could have cracked LED and relayed for 3, but that's really bad. This way, if we draw any 0-drop, we can just Grapeshot the Voidwalker and then Flashback Echo. Obviously, we're looking to dodge another Thoughtseize. They go Soulhand, Writ, Leyline of the Void. Alright, we draw a Gamble, which I don't want to gamble with that one. They get in, we go to 8. Draw another Echo, not ideal. You get in for 3 more, go to 5, and we draw a Bauble, which is pretty good. Now we get to Grapeshot the Voidwalker. Of course, there's this Leyline of the Void. Use the Bauble, get a Helm on top, and they get 5 mana, so we are dead. Looks like sideboarding, I took out 2 Overmaster and an Echo, and brought in 3 Empty the Warrens. And we open up a hand that doesn't quite do it. The mulligan, and this is a pretty good relay hand, which is pretty much what we're looking for, because it dodges both discard and Leyline. Still lets us do a very powerful and explosive turn 1 play. And they have a Leyline on a 7-card hand, so that's pretty scary. But we will just dump it, imprint the Spirit Guide, play Mox Opal, get a land in, we get to keep our Petal. I mean, a relay for 4 with 4 mana in play is pretty good. And we hit Echo, Bauble, Land, Belcher. So the Belcher's nice, land is nice. Now we can play Belcher and threaten to kill them with it the following turn. They have a Dothy Voidwalker, so they have a bunch of, like, disruption for us. We gotta hope that they can't put a Helm into play and activate it. Go ahead and play our Belcher and pass. And we see that they have another Voidwalker on top. And they die. Alright, the final game. We're on the draw. And this hand is fine. It has some land drops. It does relay stuff. If they don't have Leyline, we can just do Echo stuff. They do, so they mulligan to 5 and have a Leyline. Means they're reasonably likely to have a pretty crappy hand otherwise. But they do have Black Source and Thoughtseize, so that's pretty good. Only 2 cards left, but they of course take the relay. And we'll just take a land drop here. There's an argument to playing the LED out. Maybe I should have. They play a city, which is an awkward land to play out. But I play Lines of Diamond, Rite of Flame, land, Seething Song. Give ourselves a 2/3 chance to gamble for Belcher. And we hit. And OP says Pog. GG's. Okay, so are there any changes that I would make I mean, something to note is that, of course, you do run into a lot of force check hands, but that's how Echo Gamble Storm decks work. It's kind of balanced out by the amount of times that you're going to have Overmaster or Relay hands. Generally speaking, pretty good against blue decks. I mean, once they start having like Stifle and start dropping Hateful Permanence, that's a different story. We didn't play against Prison. We didn't play against like Oops. I did just beat Oops, but I think the only thing that I might want to change is possibly, obviously the Overmaster in the sideboard is I'm not 100% on. Cards like Jessica's Will, Reforge the Soul, I gotta see how often they're useful. And then the empty sideboard plan. We'll see how that pans out. But it's possible we do want Leyline of Anticipation in the sideboard so that we can have some more game against faster decks, especially opposing Echo Storm decks. Leyline is really good against. But yeah, other than that, I mean, this deck is still a ton of fun, and I think it's actually reasonably competitive. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, of course, like, subscribe, check out my Patreon, and keep storming, y'all. See you in the next one.